Let's go now, as I said, to bring in my next guests on the ground in Israel. I'm joined from Tel Aviv by Marcus Sheaf, CEO of the education charity Impact C, a former journalist, I might add too, and Times of Israel journalist Amy Spiro. Marcus and Amy, thank you for your time. A sincere, abject condolences for the loss of Israeli citizens here from the people of Australia. I'll start, if I can, with you, Marcus. Give us a sense of the mood in your country today.
Well, the mood is resilience, and the attitude of Israelis is bravery. Civilians living in the border desperately fought these terrorists. As you know, on Saturday morning, on a Jewish festival as well, Simchat Torah, hundreds of Hamas terrorists who rule Gaza infiltrated the internationally recognized border with Israel, attacked Israeli communities and families in their homes, and armed killers hunted Israelis house by house. They executed children in front of their parents. Pensioners were executed in the street. And we know now that terrorists have murdered at least 700, including young and old, and that figure is expected to rise. You know, children sat on the floor in a safe room on the kibbutz while their father was outside with a gun in his hand, and they heard the door open, they heard shooting. They didn't know if their father had died or succeeded in killing the terrorists. So clearly Israelis understand that Hamas is a genocidal, cruel death cult. It is backed by Iran, and they are sadly resigned to the fact that it must be faced, must be beaten, so that normal life can resume for Israelis and, frankly, for Palestinians as well.
Amy, a lot of concern about the failure of the world-renowned Israeli intelligence services in detecting the scale of these attacks. What's been the reaction in Israel, and do we have any clue as to why these very highly coordinated attacks occurred at this time?
Certainly, it's, you know, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, questions going on. I think everyone in Israel is reeling, still really doesn't understand what happened. We don't have a huge amount of answers. What we've heard mostly from officials is, you know, this isn't the time for questions. We need to fight this war, and we will answer those questions later. You know, a couple things. One is that, you know, the vast majority of the Israeli soldiers who were manning these posts along the border are either killed or kidnapped, and we are missing a lot of information. You know, there's no doubt that this was a massive failure of Israeli intelligence. That's, you know, that's very clear. It seems that they, you know, that the Hamas terrorists were planning this for weeks. They managed to shoot out the cameras. They managed to take people by surprise. And I think this is a moment and a day that we'll be dissecting for months, years, maybe even decades.
Marcus, I've spent time in Sderot, so that's down for Australians at home, close to the Gaza border. So I can't imagine what it's like for families to have gone through what they've gone through over the weekend. We know about the hundreds dead at that music festival. The abductions, the people taken back into Gaza, some horrific images we've seen here and around the world. What happens next?
Well, as you know, Peta, Israel left Gaza in August 2005. They uprooted 9,000 people, and that was done with hopes to live peacefully with the Palestinians on the other side of what is an internationally recognized border. But instead, Hamas took over the region. They committed to 17 years now of terrible violence, terrible destruction. So I think next is for the international community to get behind its removal, which it is doing, for the sake of Israelis, Palestinians, and the whole region. And I think when this is done, next is also for us to stop, and for once and for all, the radicalization of young people by UNRWA in its education needs to be put to an end, because this is one of the key root causes of the terrible brutality that we have seen over the last 2 days.